Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Oge and I share all things about life, travel, study and culture in Austria. Today, I am super excited to take you on a journey that has been both challenging and incredibly rewarding. My journey from zero to fluent in German while I live in Austria. Whether you are planning to move here or you're already living in Austria or just curious about learning any new language, stick around because I will share my experiences, tips, and a few funny stories along the way. I will also talk about some of the cultural behaviors or traditions and how they play a vital role in my language learning process. So if you're interested, let's dive in. So let me start at the beginning. When I first arrived in Austria, my German was pretty non-existent. Yeah, I knew a few basic phrases like Guten Morgen, Guten Tag, Ich habe Hunger, and Danke. But that was all. That was about it. Moving to a new country with such limited language skill was intimidating, to say the least. At first, I tried to get by with just English, especially since many Austrians speak English quite well. But I quickly realized that if I wanted to truly integrate and understand the culture in a deeper level, I needed to learn German. So I made the decision to jump right in the language learning process. That is German language learning. The first few weeks were definitely overwhelming. Everything from street signs to grocery shopping felt like a challenge to me. But rather than getting discouraged, I used it as a motivation. I knew that learning German will not only help me navigate daily life, but also open doors to new friendships and opportunities. It was at that point that I decided to enroll in a beginner's language German course at a local language school. This was my first serious step towards learning the language, and it gave me the structure that I needed to start understanding German grammar and vocabulary. To kickstart my learning, I used a mix of traditional and modern methods. The language course I took was great for laying the foundation, especially things like grammar, sentence structure, and pronunciation. The classes were small. I had a group of 12 people in the class, which meant I got a lot of personal attention from the teacher or the instructor. And that really helped build my confidence earlier as I started the course. In addition to the classes, I also relied heavily on language learning apps like Duolingo and English to German language translator app. These were perfect for practicing on the go, especially when I was commuting or just had a few spare minutes. They helped reinforce what I was learning in the class. It's also a fun way to build up my vocabulary. Flashcards became an essential tool in my learning toolkit. I did write down new words and phrases I encountered during the day. then review them whenever I could, whether I was sitting on the tram or moving around. I also make sure to practice verb conjugations and gendered nouns, which can be very tricky for beginners. To get even more involved in the language learning, I started watching German TV shows, Austrian TV shows and series. For example, Sturm der Liebe is one of my favorites. It was a fun way to get myself used to the language, rhythm, and intonations. Plus, it gave me more context for the phrases and helped me to see how people speak, which is very, very helpful. I got better at German was by surrounding myself with the language and people that speak the language. Living in Austria gave me the perfect opportunity to practice every day. I made it a point of duty to speak German as much as possible, even when it felt awkward or I made mistakes. I do not really care. As long as I can communicate, the more I put myself out there, the faster I learned. I started with small things like ordering things online in German, making appointments, for example, doctor's appointments or any other appointments, speaking with colleagues at work and asking for directions. At first, these conversations make me really nervous, but slowly they became easier. One thing I learned was that Austrians really appreciate it when you make an effort to speak their language. Even if you are not perfect, they will appreciate you when they see you making an effort to speak that language. Attending local events was another great way to get myself even more involved in the language. Whether it was a Christmas market or just a small neighborhood gathering, these were perfect settings to practice speaking and listening in a more relaxed and social environment. Finding a language partner was also a great idea and a game changer. But I did not have a language partner, but I had a few colleagues who were patient enough to help me practice. And sometimes I help them with English language when the need arises. These regular meetups not only improved my speaking skills, but also gave me deeper insights into Austrian culture and everyday life. Of course, it wasn't easy. It was not. It wasn't always smooth sailing. There were times when I felt stuck, especially with tricky German grammar and those compound words and different dialects. I can't tell you how many times I mix up the articles, der, die, das. And don't get me started on those seemingly compounds now. Guys, it can be rough and tricky. I remembered one particular moment when I was trying to explain something in German in a store or shop, and I just couldn't find the right words. I ended up saying something completely wrong and different from what I was supposed to say. And the look on the cashier's face was priceless because she was struggling to understand what I was trying to say. It was very frustrating at that time, guys. But looking back, it was just another step in the learning process. And I have to say this, I am very grateful that I have gone through that process, that I am where I am today, even when I am not perfect yet. I am grateful for the level I have found myself today. Yes. The real changes started when I stopped worrying about being perfect. Will people mock me or laugh at me when I make mistakes? And I just focus on communicating. I realized that fluency doesn't mean perfection. It simply means being able to express yourself and understand what others are saying, even if you make mistakes along the way. So, once I let go of that fear, my progress really took off. I started to embrace the learning process and even laugh louder at my mistakes. Another big milestone was when I could hold a full conversation in German without switching to English language. It felt like everything had finally clicked. I started noticing that I was thinking in German more often, and I was able to understand jokes and cultural references that had previously gone over my head. Now, after so many years of living here in Austria and surrounding myself with the language, I can now say that I have reached a level where I feel comfortable in most situations where I am supposed to speak the language. Whether I am the doctor's appointment or chatting with friends or handling official paperwork, I can now navigate all in German, though not perfect. It's been a long journey, but incredibly rewarding. Here are my final tips for anyone who wants to learn German, especially if you are in Austria or want to live here in Austria. Tip number 1, practice daily. Even if it's just a few minutes, consistency is everything. Number 2, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process. Embrace them. Tip number 3, get yourself more involved in the language as much as possible, whether it's through media conversation or cultural experience. It is very important. Number 4, finding a language partner or join a local conversation group. Interaction is key to improve your speaking skills. The final tip, number 5, be patient with yourself. Language learning takes time. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. And remember, learning language is not just about the words. It's about understanding a culture and connecting with people. So, enjoy the journey. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on my German learning journey here in Austria. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content about life in Austria. If you have any questions or want to share your own language experiences, drop a comment below. I did love to hear from you.